Hello, you amazing friends. I'm absolutely honored to be with the powerhouse man of energy, strength, health, and fitness, Rance Hayes. How are you, Rance? How's life?
I'm doing great, Edward. It's nice to be here with you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, I gotta say thank you. I know you are a very busy, successful man to pin down. Thank you for giving us your time. I know you're very busy.
Yeah,
Hey,
we've only been talking about this interview for 6 months, right?
but you know what? I'm always better late than never, right? I'm in the better late than
Yeah,
never club. There you go.
there you go.
Now, I was just going to say, we were just talking before, just when we started. Now, you help people transform their lives when it comes to health and energy. Tell
hmm
us a bit about that. And you're talking about trust issues before, which I thought was absolutely fascinating.
hmm Yeah, so I think a lot of people, whether they're working with a personal trainer or a life coach, a lot of people develop trust issues throughout their lives. So as we're growing, we invest our trust naturally or sometimes naively into people who are in our immediate circles. And a lot of times that trust is violated, right? And for a whole multitude of reasons. But the problem is that as we grow, a lot of people don't do the work, the internal, the introspective work to work through those traumatic experiences. And as a result, they carry that mistrust with them into every endeavor of their lives. So, whether it's a personal relationship or a relationship with a coach, the bottom line is that if you're unable to trust the person that you're interacting with, you're really going to have a marginalized experience with that person, if it works out at all, you know?
Wow.
So I
Wow.
think it's really important for people before they step into a coaching relationship to understand that they're going to optimize their experience if they can allow themselves to trust the practitioner to guide them.
Wow. And that brings me to the next obvious question. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers are watching. And also, too, to those watching the recording, connect with Rance on LinkedIn, Facebook, and more. How do you sort of, so let's say someone hires you, right? And they know on paper you are the man to help them with their energy and health. And you got the 25-year track record. How do you create that trust with people who have their arms folded, figuratively speaking? How do you try and bond with them?
Yeah, so a lot of it is just, I'll give you an example. There's a client that I'm working with right now who lives in Idaho. And he's accustomed to living a Midwestern life, and if you know anything about the Midwestern American life, they don't really eat very well. They eat pretty
Yeah.
unhealthy.
On,
And
on that
and there's
note, On that note, I spent 12 weeks living in St. Louis, Missouri on a work project.
yeah,
And
yeah,
within, and the buffalo wings, within 1 month, I could not fit into my jeans. Thanks to buffalo wings.
yeah. They Americanized you, Edward.
They did. Buffalo wings
Yeah,
it's buffalo wings with French, what's that? Rance sauce dressing. There you
ranch. Yeah, yeah.
go.
Horrible. Quickest way to gain 30 pounds in 90 days, right?
Yeah, did
Uh,
it. I did that. I did that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I'm working with this client in Idaho who's, engaged in that type of lifestyle. And, for years and years and years, he struggled to lose weight. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that he tried in the past, he didn't succeed. And as a result, he started to develop this not just mistrust in other people, but in his own ability to create progress, right? To
Yeah.
achieve a goal. And when that happens, then you're less inclined to trust other people. So what I did when I spoke to him initially, I spoke to he and his wife, and I said, "Listen, I'm not here to impose my vision on you. I'm here to support your process, right?" And the difference between what you've done in the past and what you're doing now is that right now you're working with somebody who's done this for almost 30 years, who
Yeah.
has all of the information, number one. And number two, I'm passionate about this. I haven't
Yeah.
stuck around in this industry because it's a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
You're obviously
there,
loving it. Obviously.
right, right. There are plenty of other ways that I could have made money in the past 30 years, but
Yeah.
I love helping people. And the bottom line is, I think what created trust between my client and I is that number one, he felt that genuine energy, that genuine passion and enthusiasm to help people, right? And then beyond that, when we had our conversation, And you know this from talking to Dr. Liz. Those of you who know Dr. Liz, she's a great nutritionist. When you're working with a practitioner who is knowledgeable and they have all of the information that you need, you get a sense of comfort when you speak to them, because you recognize that when they're talking to you about your process, that they know more about you than you know about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the two primary ways was just showing up as a human, letting him know that I love what I do and I'm here to support him in every way possible to make sure that he can finally get off this roller coaster. And then number two, I've done this for such a long time that I've acquired enough information that, he's not my first rodeo. So as long as he can just follow the guidelines, we're going to be just fine,
Now, on that before, I love what you're talking about guidelines. Can you give us, let's say, and I'm just talking on average, not about this particular client, but on average, what are the top 3 things that you address with people? The top 3 things you would address?
Yeah. So the first thing, well, I simply the top 3 things I address are commitment, determination, and discipline. Right.
Okay.
So if you're not committed to your process, it doesn't matter what I teach you.
Yeah.
You're gonna sabotage yourself. If you're not determined to see it through. So right now we're moving through the holiday season. A lot of my clients are engaging with families. They know that the only way that they're going to maintain the progress that we created so far, or the only way that they're going to make more progress through the holidays, is if they're determined to see through every single workout, right? We're not skipping days. We're not skipping movements. When we go into the gym, we recognize that each movement is about 1 minute to 1 minute and 30 seconds. See it through, right? If you're determined to push through, just like a relationship, if you're determined to put in the work because you're invested in that person and you genuinely love them and you want it to work, then you're going to be determined to see it through every single time, right? And then the last part is discipline. Every single person that I work with, most of the people that I work with are busy executives and entrepreneurs. These are professionals who are very successful in their own right, but they don't express or show or exercise a lot of discipline when it comes to self-care. So what I always remind people in that position is, if you could just apply the same level of discipline and the same level of attention to your well-being that you do to your business, there's no way that you're not going to achieve your fitness goals.
Now, I love where you're going there, and if I can jump in, because and a lot of you will know self-care has been one of my biggest issues in my life, right? And it's created me a lot of problems. It's one of the reasons why I became a homeless veteran, right, earlier in life. The bit that's interesting though, and a lot of people like yourself have been really helping me challenge that old view. I was brought up to think that self-care is for, if you're into self-care, it means you're a weakling, it means you're terrible. If you're into self-care, it means you're not committed to the company or job that you're doing, because you're into self-care, you're lazy and you're letting everyone down. So therefore, if you're not working to the bone, it means you suck. I was brought up with those views, and that was actually quite reinforced. As much as I love the military, that was reinforced to the military as well. What do you honestly think of those old views that I held, that I know a lot of people hold?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you I have personal experience with that. I've been training long enough that I was in the fitness industry when working out was not popular. Right. So I used to go door to door and I used to talk to people in their businesses and present myself and my business cold. Right. Now, when I did that, a lot of times the managers or the owners of the company would come to the front of the office and they'd say something ridiculous. So, for example, one guy came to the front when I was presenting my business to the people in the office.
Oh, here we go. Oh, got your back, Rance. So they're hacking the internet. I'll say again, Rance. Say again. We've lost your audio, Rance. Can you hear us all right? I blame the internet. There we go. So Rance is getting us back. People probably realize I was listening to Jordan Peterson before we jumped on. So there you go. So Go again, legendary Rance. Well, what we'll do is while we're giving Rance a minute or two to log back in, that's cool. While we're giving Rance a minute or two to log back in, there he is.
Got it.
Ah, we got you back. Sorry, please continue.
Sorry
I
about
was
that,
about to
guys.
start
Sorry about that.
entertaining people by myself. There you go.
So what were we talking about? Remind me real quick.
Oh, you're talking about how you used to go door to door and some of the weird things you get when people would walk up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Edward was talking about the old mentality, right? And really, if we want to frame it properly, that's the old CEO mentality, right? The old CEO mentality is you work to the bone. You work until you
Yep.
die to improve the bottom line. You don't leave your desk to stretch or to get oxygen or to eat or to go to the bathroom. You just work and work and work and work and improve the company's bottom line. And when you die, they replace you.
Yep, right? That's how I was brought up. Yeah,
right.
That was how I was
watched up. So to answer your question, I watched my mom work for IBM, and I watched her hit the glass ceiling for years, right? And I watched her struggle to try to walk up the corporate ladder year after year until she got depressed, right? Wow. And so eventually what she did is she ended up leaving IBM. She became an independent contractor and started doing independent contracting work for Cisco Systems and other tech companies in the Bay Area on her own. So what that did is it really inspired me to, first of all, recognize that a lot of the business people in our country have their whole business model is ass backwards. Yeah. Because look at what's happening today. All of these new companies are transitioning to people first systems, right? Where what they're saying is that if I invest in the people in my company, like Google, for example, if I invest in my employees and I give them a place to rest during the day, and I give them proper nourishment, and I give them access to massage therapists and to counselors and to personal trainers, those employees are going to be more dedicated than ever before to do a good job for our company, right? Now, I used to work in the fitness industry, and the fitness industry, they do not care about people. They care about money. I'm talking about corporate gyms. I'm talking about corporate gyms, the big gyms, right? All they care about is new business. So this is something that I picked up on very early on, and I recognize that in my life and in my business, I don't want to operate that way. I want the people that work with me to know that I care about them first. Because my business doesn't work without you. Right. And so you need to know that I genuinely care about you as a human being. I'm invested in you. And if more companies did this, they'd get better outcomes and less turnover.
Well, on that note, and I know you're going to love this, and a bit of trivia for you, pre-pandemic, I used to go to LinkedIn. So in Sydney, basically in the southern half of the planet, LinkedIn has actually run out of Sydney, more or less. It's one of the biggest offices of LinkedIn. And I've been a Microsoft partner for years. So what would happen is pre-virus, I was going to LinkedIn once a month just to meet with people, just get the inside scoop. And when I was there, it has that Google Microsoft culture, being part of Microsoft. But when I was there, basically everyone said working at LinkedIn is a top job in town. Like once you work for LinkedIn, no one leaves. Basically 3 meals a day. You can eat whatever you want. They've got a sleeping room, and you know, and if you got kids, if you got to work, and this is pre-virus, mind you, pre-pandemic. Yes. If you have to work from home, this is pre-pandemic. We understand that. We'll try and work with you. And what would happen is that anyone who worked for LinkedIn, you're spot on. They were zealots. Like basically, they were like cult. They were basically cult acolytes, and that I work for LinkedIn. It's the best job ever. And I had lunch there a few times, and it was sort of like I used to get the salmon. It was basically like a $28 quality fish. And so I thought, wow, imagine having your life here.
Yeah.
And you're spot on. I think you're right. I think, and you know, we've got the Great Resignation going down as well. I'm totally with you. And I love how your mom did it too. I love how your mom said, stick it to IBM. She probably went off and made more money by herself anyway, I imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, as an independent contractor, she was getting 100%. You know,
yeah, she would have killed it. She would have made probably double the income of IBM. Plus, she was paying less taxes, I imagine.
Right, right. And so the thing is, what we're seeing today is, like you said, the great resignation. More and more
Yeah.
people are realizing that you don't have to kill yourself to be successful. And that's
Yeah.
really a huge component of my program is I work with a lot of type A people. I work with a lot
Yep.
of go-getters, a lot of high achievers who, if you didn't tell them to come up and get air, they would drown themselves.
Yeah. I
Right.
can relate.
So I really believe that over the years I've saved a lot of people's lives just by
Ah,
redirecting their trajectory
yeah.
and helping them to incorporate wellness, or not just incorporate it, but make it a priority. Number one, so that they can live longer and not die at 50 of a heart attack,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
but so that they can also
Yeah.
elevate the quality of their life. And for the people that are watching this and who are thinking to yourselves, you know what? I just love making money. Do you understand how much more money you'll make once you're healthy? Do you understand
Yeah.
how much more money you can make when you have more energy?
Yeah.
When you're not fighting off injuries and colds all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
just big
incredible.
business.
Rance, I got to say, I love where you're going. Thank you for your time. And just before we finish up, how can people get into contact with you? And when people work with you, how does that process begin? How do people start working with you and that type of thing?
Absolutely. So there are a couple of things that you can do. Number one, if you're an executive or an entrepreneur and you're looking to elevate your performance, I have a business called the Elevated Method, which I work primarily with executives and entrepreneurs. When you reach out to me, you can just book an assessment. The assessment is complimentary for everybody, right? So I leave it up to you guys. I offer the assessment for free. Whether or not you're serious about training will determine whether or not you reach out. Right. So the assessment is totally free. We'll schedule it. It takes about an hour. The first 30 minutes, we'll talk about your health, medical history, and your current physical condition and your goals. And then I'll take you through a low impact movement screen to see how your body responds to functional movement. Without doing those things, I can't give you a proper recommendation. Right.
Sure.
So I need to learn more about you first, and we need to see if we're a good match. If all of that works out, then we'll set up some program opportunities. I have 3 different programs that I offer, basically 90 days, 6 months, and 12 months, depending on your goals. But the bottom line, you guys, is if you're really interested in learning how to train the right way so that you can finally get off this roller coaster where you're gaining weight, gaining weight, losing weight every season, um, I can help you create long-term sustainable well-being, but it starts with a conversation. So, and that conversation is the hour-long assessment. That's how it works. And then, oh, I'm sorry. Beyond that, once we
No.
start training, I'm an online trainer. I'm an online trainer. So when you come to work with me, for example, my client, Dr. Liz, she's in Australia.
Yes.
And if you haven't heard her story, Dr. Liz has lost about 50 pounds through COVID, all online, right? I have another client here in the Bay Area who lost 200 pounds, all online, right?
Wow.
So it doesn't matter what your goal is. I have another client here who's a Google employee. She does not have 100 pounds to lose. She's actually pretty thin, but she wants to get stronger and increase her energy and her presence at Google, right? It's one of the things we were just talking about. So whatever your goals are, reach out to me. Let's have a conversation, and I will give you the right information so that you can stop wasting time, energy, and money.
Oh, I love it. And I love how you're not doing cookie cutter. You are focusing on exactly what people need and giving them that. So I love how you've been quite custom in your experience.
Has to be that way, Big Ed. Has to be that way. Cookie
Beautiful.
cutter programs do not work.
Yeah, that was it. And look, just
Waste of
before I
time.
let you go to continue helping people, can we just get a final closing thought from you for all our fans across the world?
Sure. Final closing thought. I would say, we're approaching 2022, and a lot of us have had a really challenging time in 2021. And I would just say to you, don't move into this new era with old energy that doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
Take the next 30 days to assess the previous year, this year, 2021. Look at what really served you well. Look at the areas where you struggled or where you were really challenged, and attack those areas going into 2022. One of the biggest things about training, the correlation that I love, is that every single time you come to work out with me, not only are you getting stronger physically, but you're also becoming more resilient mentally, right? And what that does is it bleeds into every other area of your life and makes it easier for you to navigate your way through the inevitable obstacles. So I know we're all going to have challenges in 2022, but if we can be proactive and think about how we can position ourselves to be happy and successful, then we'll all have a great year.
Rance, thank you so much. Be it you're watching the recording or watching us live, please reach out to Rance. Rance, I'll leave you back to it, and I just want to wish you a great afternoon and say thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, Edward. I appreciate you. It's always a pleasure.